If you can see and hear me, let me know. I want to make sure my video and audio is working well. Just take a moment to feel your feet on the ground. You can put your hands on your arms and just like really get into the space where you are. It's always easier to learn if we're a little bit calmer, a little bit more present. Okay, so I can see confirmation that you can see and hear me, so that is great. So if we haven't met before, I am Carolyn. I am a projector who has lived with a lot of generators. I grew up in a house of generators, so I can speak really well to this question that a viewer sent in. Now, if you see me looking down at my phone, this is standard operating procedures. This is so the undefined throat doesn't go on little side quests and adventures, and that we stay on point. So this video is going to be particularly helpful if you're a projector who is living with one or more generators or manifesting generators, because the defined sacral is what they have in common. And it's also going to be helpful if you are a generator or a manifesting generator who is living with a projector, child, partner, flatmate, or anyone else in really close proximity in your living space. Now, if you are also somebody who is like digging around the internet, trying to understand as best you can projectors so that you can serve your projector clients better, then this video is also going to be helpful for you. Now, the question that was asked was popped in this video. I'll pop it up there. And the question reads, can you maybe give your insight on the topic of living with generators as a projector? I often hear that you can't co-sleep with sacral beings, or you need space from generators to be alone. That's really hurtful because I'm a mum of a generator, said this particular person. So great question. Let's pull it apart. I'm going to answer this in 4 sections. Okay. So number 1, can you give your insight on the topic of living with generators as a projector? Okay, so projectors are roughly 22% of the population. And while she has asked specifically about generators, in this particular question, we also need to include manifesting generators, and you'll see why this is part of the equation later in this video if you don't already know why. Now, generators and manifesting generators together make up about 68% of the population. So it is very likely that there is somewhere in the vicinity of about 1 billion homes, billion with a B, homes around the world where there is this configuration of at least one projector and at least one generator or manifesting generator sharing auric space. That just means, so quick anatomy lesson here. If you don't already know this, your body lives inside what we call an aura, also known as the energy field, also known as the information field, also known as the biofield. If you hear any of those terms, it is all the same thing. And this field extends out about, roughly, on average, 5 to 6 feet in every direction, up, down, 360 degrees around, okay? So if you ever hear anybody talking about in human design sharing auric space, what they mean is there anybody else above you, below you, or anywhere around you within 5 or 6 foot of you? And because it was taught in US, it's in feet and inches rather than metric, but you can do the conversion if you're Australian like me. But I have 6 foot is about 182 centimeters. So, about 1.8 meters in every direction, right? Okay. So there are so many people who are living in this situation. So if this is your situation, whether you're on the projector side or the generator side, it is very, very common and you are not alone. So let's look at part number 2 of her question. I hear often that you can't, and she's used quotation marks, you can't co-sleep with sacral beings. Firstly, just so it's really clear in case this is new for you, a sacral being, because there's so much jargon in human design. If you ever hear me use jargon that you don't understand, feel free to pop it in a comment and I will make sure that I explain it. If I need to do a video on it, I can do that as well. So a sacral being just means somebody with a defined sacral center. That means all the generators and all the manifesting generators and none of the rest of us. Okay, so a sacral being is a generator or a manifesting generator. Now, anytime you hear the word can't from a human design teacher, I want you to press pause. Now, I might accidentally say it sometimes, so I want you to also press pause on me, but I try to be very mindful. It is true that there are better ways to do things. There are things that you can do, things that human design will point you towards that will make things work better. That's kind of the whole point of human design, to make your life work better as you living your life as yourself. But will you get better quality sleep if you're a projector and you sleep out of the aura of generators and manifesting generators in your home? Probably. You probably will. Now, do you have to? No, of course not. It's your life. You are in your home, you're in your relationships, you're in your life. You know what you need to do and what. So I really want to encourage you to take what you find useful and helpful and appropriate and contextually possible for you from HD and let go of the rest, right? You might pick it up later and you might not, and it's all okay, right? There's no, I really want to steer away from the dogma of you must do this and you must do that and you can't do this and you can't do that. Rubbish. There's a whole bunch of teachings here. There's a whole bunch of things that are very, very helpful, and you have to do you. But if we stick with the sleeping, looking at this point on sleeping, I want you to know that there is some nuance here. You may or may not be aware that our energetic design is different when we are vertical versus when we are horizontal. And so you can actually create an entirely different chart. A lot of people don't do it. It's not something I offer, a sleep chart, where you can actually look at your chart and the chart of your loved ones of how their energetic design changes when they're horizontal, as in when they're sleeping. Now, here's the hack. Sleep next to the person you want to sleep next to and notice if you sleep well. And if you can and you want to, experiment. Go and sleep out of their auric field and see if you sleep better. Ta-da! You have your answer, right? Now, I can think of examples where, I think of a manifesting generator lover I had when I was in my 20s. I slept next to him like a baby. I would go to sleep wrapped up in his arms with all that sacral energy, and I would sleep and not move for 8 or 8.5 hours. And it was amazing. And I would wake up feeling great. Fast forward 10 or 15 years, and I was with a different manifesting generator. I barely slept. I would just toss and turn all night, right? So probably the first partner that I mentioned probably had an undefined sacral when he was asleep. So I was probably sleeping in a very different design, sharing a different auric space. Whereas the second person that I mentioned probably still had a defined sacral, probably still had a lot of definition. That definition was probably stopping me from feeling really well rested. So let's go back to my notes. See, side quests. This is what happens when I go on tangents. So if you realize that you're sleeping poorly, let's get rid of these notifications. If you are in the same space and you have the option and you want to, then consider experimenting with sleeping on your own. You can even take a daytime nap, and hello to those who are watching. You can add comments in the comment section if you wish. Otherwise, just follow along. So just see how it feels. It's experiment if you want to. Remember, it's your life. You can do what you want. Human design is supposed to be a tool to support you, not a dogma that tells you what to do. Okay. Now, another thing to consider is that in many, many homes around the world, there's just no extra space. You might be in a house where every room has a kid in it or a person in it sleeping in there. And you can't just go to the spare room. I hear a lot of wealthy people with a lot of space who've got spare rooms. I'm lucky we have spare room here. So if I wanted to, I could literally go and sleep in the other end of the house from my manifestor. Now, we choose not to do that very often, but I could. Not everyone is in that situation. So if you might live in a tiny apartment, I think of Amsterdam or some of the other cities that are very, very tiny and everyone is in tiny space and you're sharing auric field with your whole friggin' family when you sleep, right? Oh, hi there, Pete. Yes, good. Well, and we learn so much in the experiment. So if you are in that situation, you might not have the option to sleep alone, right? So it's just about working with what you do have, right? Screw perfection. Just notice what you have, work with what you have. So let's talk about the third the third section of this person's question, and that was this quote: "You need space from generators and to be alone." Now, if you want to be the healthiest projector that you can be, then yes, it is important to have time and space away from the sacral energy of gens and MGens. Now, to be honest, we all need energy away from others. My manifestor, who has more definition than me, needs time away from me, right? We all need space from each other so that we can reconnect with ourselves and with nature and with whatever God we believe in, right? And it's the only way that you can truly know who you really are, and is by getting out of the influence of everyone else. But like everything in human design, do the best that you can with what makes sense in your life. Everyone's life is different. Which brings me to the last part of the question, which is where she said that I find it really hurtful to hear these things as the mum of a generator. So if you are parenting a child, especially a young child, and especially if you're co-sleeping, I can imagine that hearing Ra-Uruhu, the messenger of human design, or anybody else who's teaching this information, if they are to tell you that you have to do it this way or you can't do it that way, that could feel really hurtful. I understand that. So there are two paths that I see ways that you can navigate this. Two obvious paths. So when you hear something that doesn't work for you, you can politely decline. I hear you, but no, thank you. I'm not going to do that. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for my life. That doesn't work for my family. I choose not to do it. The other option is that you could get curious about why you find it hurtful. You could ask yourself the question, why does this hurt so much? What am I making this mean? Where am I feeling this in my body? Is there a time when I felt something like this before? Sometimes on our journey with human design, we're going to find things that are simply too difficult for our specific life, or even just for our current life circumstance, that it feels impossible to implement, and there is no point banging your head against a brick wall. You may as well focus on the things that are achievable, that are within reach, that make sense for your life. And sometimes we're going to find an edge that we can use, that we can lean into, and we can use it as an opportunity to grow. And only you are going to know which is which. It's your experiment. So you do you. Now, if you have a question that you'd like me to answer, there are two ways that I can do that. If it's a general question like this one, where I don't need to see your chart, you can pop it in a comment below this video or any of the other videos on this YouTube channel. And if you have a specific question where you would like me to answer that privately and look at your specific chart, I will put a link to my coaching options in the video description below this.